Welcome to Texas Tech TV. I'm Brian Jensen along with John Harris, Chris Level, the Texas Tech Sports Network radio crew with you. The keys to the game for this weekend's big matchup between the Red Raiders and the SFA Lumberjacks, a game that, on paper, you would expect to be a walkover for the Red Raiders, but hey, that's probably what Kansas State thought about, a week ago or so. So they certainly don't want to be looking past this SFA team for what's coming up the next week with TCU coming to town. Let's get started with Chris Level. Get your first key to the game in this one.
You know, and I hate to harp on this again, but I think it's really, when you start looking ahead of that TCU game, this is a stat that you really just need to start chalking some up, and that's the takeaway category. Texas Tech and SMU played the only game last week against FBS teams where there was no takeaways. I think it's kind of fascinating, and Matt Wallerstedt will tell you, we're part of the drought. We've got to fix that. They got the quarterback last week. The tackles for loss number was up, but they've got to get the ball for their offense, and I think that's going to be something that's paramount going forward. Now, this kid has thrown Brady Attaway. They call him Brady Adeception there in Nacogdoches. He's thrown, I think, 24 picks in his last 12 games, so he will throw it to the other team. The key is pressuring and all those things. So that's what I'm really looking at tomorrow night.
Yeah, the pressure was good last week, and the opportunities were there. They just, once again, didn't come up with those opportunities and turn them into turnovers. So, obviously, if they can do that, get that next step ahead, it would be a great bonus. John, your key.
I'll go right back to the Red Raiders' offensive front. I mean, obviously did not run the ball particularly effectively at SMU. You have 27 attempts and net less than 50 yards. And while you can throw the ball very well against the Mustangs on that night with a brand new quarterback in Baker Mayfield, that may not always be the case. And the running game has got to find a way to get going. I think they will in this ball game. But what does that mean? I mean, and how much better will you get over the course of the season? It's an offensive line that has some injuries, going to be missing some people. But like we're saying, the competition just gets tougher and tougher as this team goes along. And I really do think the offensive front must play better and show what we'll see as the season continues.
Well, you just made me change my key right in the middle here. I was going to talk about staying injury-free and how important that would be. Obviously not a key during the game as much as it is after the game. But I'm going to shift mine now and talk about Baker Mayfield. I mean, here's a guy that with all the hype going into the game, played very well, obviously the Offensive Player of the Week in the Big 12, but now he comes into a week where, they are expecting him to step up a little bit more against a team that, most people don't believe really can compete. You don't want to let down. And here is a freshman, walk-on freshman, he's still going to be that for many weeks. This is one of those weeks where you just can ill afford to make big mistakes. So, don't relax. It's one of those games where it does give him the opportunity, I think, to maybe think inside his head that maybe I can relax a little bit in this one. In college football, at this level, you can't relax regardless of the opponent. And again, you go back to what happened last week with Kansas State and a couple of others, then they learned it the hard way. You sure don't want the Red Raiders to fall into that, or Baker Mayfield as well.
Absolutely not. And I think you've learned in college football today, if you don't come ready to play, you can't get it back once the ball game starts. So I think that's really key. And you're right, it's a young guy who's had a lot of success. You can't let that, and I don't think Cliff Kingsbury will let that go to his head, but it is just something that cannot happen. You want him back out there playing at that same level or even a little bit higher and see what he can do with this team.
I'm surprised neither one of you said that the key was that they don't stare at themselves at that humongous screen that's on the north end right there.
I think it changes the whole dynamic of a home game here. I mean, it's going to be awesome. I think, from a recruit coming in here to a fan to a coach looking at a replay, deciding if he wants to challenge. I mean, all that stuff. Yeah. It changes the whole dynamic. It's awesome.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing it in live game action as the Red Raiders take on the SFA Lumberjacks. And please go ahead and tune in to the radio while you're watching it on television, wouldn't you? With the Texas Tech Sports Network. For the crew, I'm Brian Jensen. Thanks for watching Texas Tech TV.